In an age where words traveled by horse and fate was written by distance, one letter held the power to defy time itself. Welcome to a story set in 1587, where love battles separation, and hope is carried by the faintest ink on fragile parchment. The year was 1587. Europe was a land of towering castles, winding cobblestone streets, and air thick with the whispers of distant battles and unspoken secrets. In the small village of Aldenford, nestled between dense forests and a slow-moving river, life moved at its own unhurried pace. Yet, for young Thomas, each day passed like a slow, agonizing wait. Thomas was no ordinary man. He was the son of a humble farmer, his life grounded in tilling soil, tending livestock, and bearing the weight of tradition. But within his heart, a fire burned brighter than any hearth, a fire of longing, hope, and a love that dared to dream beyond the borders of his small world. Her name was Eliza. Eliza was the daughter of the village blacksmith. Her eyes, deep and mysterious, held the stories of countless whispered evenings and a quiet melancholy of separation. Their love had blossomed slowly, like the delicate flowers of spring, nurtured by stolen glances, soft words shared beneath the ancient oak, promises spoken in the hush of twilight. But fate, as it often does, dealt its cruel hand. In the early summer of that year, news arrived that Eliza's father had been summoned to serve the crown's distant needs. He was to travel to London, the heart of the realm, leaving the village and Eliza behind. The decision was final, the journey dangerous, and the separation indefinite. On the day of departure, the village square gathered in quiet reverence. Villagers stood by, their faces etched with sorrow and empathy, knowing well the price of serving the crown. Thomas approached Eliza, his heart pounding louder than the distant church bells. "Eliza," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the wind. "I cannot bear this distance, but I will write. I will send you letters every moon if need be until you return." Eliza's eyes glistened, a mixture of pride and sorrow. "And I will await them, Thomas. Every letter, every word. They will be my lifeline." With a heavy heart, Thomas watched Eliza disappear into the folds of the crowd, leaving behind the echo of promises, the scent of old regret. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Thomas, determined to hold on to hope, began to write. His letters, inked with trembling hands, spoke of daily life in Oldham, of the changing seasons, of the village's slow turn toward winter. He wrote of his yearning, of his dreams, and of the steadfast belief that Eliza would one day return. Each letter was sealed with a pressed flower from the garden, a silent symbol of his unwavering love. But in 1587, sending a letter was no simple task. Thomas traveled miles to the nearest post town, facing treacherous paths and unpredictable weather. He paid handsomely for the service, entrusting his fragile parchment to couriers who promised delivery. Every step he took was a prayer. Every coin he spent, an act of faith. Back in London, Eliza waited in a small chamber above the blacksmith's workshop. Each day she would rise before dawn, her eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of message. Days stretched endlessly, and yet her resolve remained unshaken. However, the world around them was not still. The political climate of England in 1587 was turbulent. Queen Elizabeth I ruled with strength and caution, constantly wary of threats from foreign powers and internal conspiracies. The atmosphere of suspicion extended even into the heart of common folk life, where rumors of spies and traitors were whispered in hushed tones, Every letter carried the risk of interception, and every messenger was a potential target. One day, a shadow fell over Eliza's home. A visiting nobleman, curious about village affairs, had inquired into the correspondence that flowed in and out of the blacksmith's home. His questions were subtle, but his eyes bore the weight of authority. Eliza's father, cautious and protective, ensured that the inquiries were met with polite deflection. Yet the seed of doubt had been planted. As autumn approached, Thomas's letters grew sporadic. The once regular arrivals dwindled, and the space where his last letter had been left remained. Each passing day without a message felt like a silent ache, a growing uncertainty that clouded Eliza's heart. I must hold on, she told herself one evening, staring at the empty heart. Thomas will not abandon me. The bond we share is stronger than distance. But fate is often crueler than hope. Unbeknownst to Eliza, the political unrest in London had worsened. Couriers carrying private messages were being intercepted, their content scrutinized for signs of dissent or treachery. A simple love letter could